Yeah, I need to pull it up and
Good evening.
see. It's in there.
This meeting of the Romulus Board of Education is called to order at 6:01 p.m. Mr. Secretary, could I have roll call, please?
Mrs. Bowles is either
Absent.
absent. Ms. Kraut?
Here.
Ms. Funderburg?
Here.
Ms. Buckley?
Here.
Mrs. Beard?
Here.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Present.
Mr. Theed is present.
We could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed into the agenda, two announcements to make. The first one, if anyone wishes to address the Board of Education, there are forms on the back table. If you could please take one of those and fill it out and pass it up front, we'll make sure that we call upon you. The second one, ladies and gentlemen of the board, is a message from me to you as your board chair. It says, as your board president, it's my responsibility to provide direction at meetings to ensure board members all have an opportunity to ask questions and have their voices heard. At our last meeting, I allowed myself to be involved in a heated discussion with another member of the board. While I stand by my position and beliefs, I acknowledge that arguing from the chair casts an unprofessional light on the chair. I accept responsibility for my actions, and I will strive to do better as we move forward. With that, we will move into the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature by the Board of Education and will be acted upon by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items. If any member of the board or any citizen requests discussion of an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will become the first item of business under the report of the superintendent portion of the agenda. A, approval. To approve the minutes of the Board of Education of the regular meeting of January 28, 2013, the special meeting of February 4, 2013, and the special meeting of February 6, 2013. B, approval. To approve the personnel actions as submitted by Rebecca Peck, Director of Human Resources. Retirement of a head custodian, the employment in the cafeteria, and an employment of GSRP teacher. C, the approval to approve the bills of payment as submitted by Sherry Papazoglu, Director of Business and Operations, in the amount of $2,527,179. D, approval to approve the proposed field trip to Camp Tamarack in Ortonville, Michigan, for the Barth Elementary 5th grade on May 1st through the 3rd, 2013, at no cost to the district. The chair would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I request that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Been moved by Ms. Buckley and supported by Ms. Funderburg. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 6-0. With that, we will move to the report of the superintendent. Dr. Daniels.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We're glad to see everyone. Tonight, we are going to have an opportunity to hear from some of our students. The board had approved a field trip for some of our high school students to go to visit the University of Toledo, and it's always nice when we get a word back on how things went. So they're here tonight to share with us for just a moment. Mr. Hurd, I turn it over to you. Mr. Hurd is the principal of our high school. Yay!
Good evening. We just invited some of our students out, and our college advisor that works with our students in planning this trip to the University of Toledo to kind of share their experiences. So I have Mrs. Danielle Gordon, who serves as our Michigan State college advisor. And you can come on over. And she's going to, she has two students that are with us tonight, and they're going to give a presentation on what they experienced during the field trip.
Hello, members of the board.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Danielle Gordon. I'm the college advisor at Romulus High School. It's my first year serving. I'm a part of the Michigan State University College Advising Corps, and I had the great opportunity of taking 49 students to the University of Toledo at no cost. And I just have 2 of my students here, and they're going to tell you a little bit about what they did and what they gained from the from the field trip. So first up, we'll have Ms. Tamira Gray.
Hello.
Hello.
As you know, I'm a student at Romulus High. I'm a junior. I believe that the trip was a very great opportunity because it was no cost. And as you know, a lot of students don't have the money to go on their own, and then it gives an opportunity to see a campus. For a lot of students do apply for colleges and don't get to actually see the campus and don't know what they're getting themselves into. And then you get to ask questions in person, which was really great. And it was a beautiful campus. I loved it. And it promotes college, like going to college, a lot. And I really appreciate the trip. And I would love to do more.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Deontay Ross.
How y'all doing?
Great.
I believe the Toledo trip was a good experience. It got us to enjoy the fundings of like how college experience worked, walking around the campus. It was a great campus. They was nice and friendly. They showed us the ways of how to learn and go about high school and apply for colleges, how to get tuitions and internships and all that good stuff where we can be able to be ready for college and see how we can prepare ourselves to get there.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So you're able to hear firsthand what experiences of our students during the University of Toledo trip. Majority of them came back and just raved about the University of Toledo. And I guess I'm not sure what's going to happen. We have a college visit on Thursday. Probably the best school ever to come visit on Thursday. In my opinion, Mississippi Valley State's coming. So,
Tell them why, Mr. Hurd.
I guess they can figure out why. But our students definitely benefit from this trip. So we'd like to thank the board for allowing them that opportunity to visit the University of Toledo. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And, as we know, one of the things that our school district is definitely about is making sure that our students are aware of college opportunities, and we want to make sure that they get there because that is going to be one of the tools that they need to help ensure success in future. So we thank you, Mr. Hurd, for being here with your students, and we thank you all, and we're glad you had the opportunity to go. Next this evening, we're going to have Mr. Selhaney, and he's going to give us a SIG update.
Thank you, Dr. Daniels. First, I'd like to say I think it's great that we, we have somebody from Michigan State who came and took kids, was willing to step out of the comfort zone, take kids to University of Toledo, and then we also have some local guests that are going to speak later about the college network. So looking at our schools locally, but then also out of state and in state. So it's nice to see the whole turnaround. So our SIG update, I'm here today to talk about where we are moving into our last half of our third year and into our beginning of our fourth year. Recently, we participated in what we call a reality check. Once a year, we get together. We have all of our outside providers, AIR, reading apprenticeship coaches, our math coaches, all of our building team leads, principals, myself, our dean of students, all of our department heads. We get together and we go through a day-long process of looking at what did we say we're going to do and looking at what data do we have to support we did it, and then making a decision, do we need to change our course of action, or do we sort of stick where we are and keep moving forward? So we go through that process with each of our initiatives to try to come to some determination about funding and where we want to put our efforts for the rest of the year. So out of this, what we came back with, our action planning, our going forward pieces are looking at observations and feedback. Our teachers said that they want to make sure they continue to get good feedback from our outside providers and from administration in the building so that they can then make decisions about their teaching. They thought that was really important. They have a lot of, through our surveys and everything, a lot of trust and confidence in our coaches from the outside, that they see them as experts, they see them as beneficial, and they feel that the feedback they get is important to their teaching. So they do make change from that. Second thing was about intervention, fidelity, and progress. So that's our early warning system. So that's our process of looking at our students with behavior, grades, and attendance, looking at those markers being those markers that knock kids off graduation. We know by the end of 6th grade that if they fall under a certain percentage of absences, behavior, and grades, that they are off track. And so part of our job at the middle school is to make sure we get them back on track for success in middle school, but high school and beyond. So one of the things that we looked at was our intervention process, to really look at our classes that we're offering. Are they beneficial? Are we seeing the data that's showing progress? And then looking at our system to make sure that their system's effective, we're targeting the right kids. And then the last piece is our curriculum and assessment alignment. We're continuing looking at our changeover to the Common Core with our ELA, and then we're also looking at our social studies, our MC3 curriculum. Again, working with our consultants, working with people to make sure that we have the right pieces in place to make sure we're going forward after this year. So that was our reality check. I think, I'm not sure if Mr. Weiss or Dr. Daniels had told you, we did make application for additional funds. The Romulus Middle School was awarded another $230,000, and that will help carry us through November of 2013. And so basically it will help with continuing with our AIR, our overall provider, looking at our ELA core curriculum, looking at that observation and feedback system, will help us fund our PBIS coach for another 100 days. Technology and supplemental materials, we're going to be looking at making our building wireless. Thank you, Ms. Peck and Ms. Papazoglu. The state did approve that, so our building will be wireless all around. We're going to look at getting 3 carts of iPads, and they're primarily going to be used in the ELA classes, and we're going to try to use our funds to put our novels on there as we transition to the Common Core, so that we're not having that continual cost every year of replacing paperback books. So, you know, both ways, some paperback, some hands-on, but then also, you know, using those 21st century tools and the iPads as well. It'll do double duty because we'll also be able to use those iPads for NWA testing and for the Smarter Balance assessment as well. So that'll help alleviate some of those testing concerns. You know, we'll have continued professional development with all of our co-teachers, the International Center. We'll have our continued math coach, some reading apprenticeship coaches, and more money for our parent involvement. So basically, we'll just continue what we have in place until the end of November, and then, as they've stated before, that funding is over. But they said funding was over and there'd be no carryover, and then they made $6 million available. So, you know, you never know with the state, but the money was available. We applied and we were granted it. So we're really hoping with the sustainability to give us extra time to really work and move forward. So our sustainability, that's the big question. We're required to submit a sustainability plan for our year 4. Unbeknownst to us that we signed on to actually do a 4-year grant, not a 3-year. So the 4th year is plan for your grant and do all the same things, but we're not going to give you any money. We're going to have to figure out how you're going to still do it. So those are some of the kinds of questions that we've had with the district, some of our other partners looking at how can we build this internal capacity. So for instance, our reading apprenticeship, which is our all-school literacy strategy, we have 3 coaches that we've trained in-house that are going through training with West Ed to be able to train the district, train new people coming in, but then also being able to provide ongoing coaching. Our math coach works with our current coach to go into classrooms to look for, you know, implementation of connected math, you know, different strategies they're trying, engagement strategies to be able to provide feedback. And then also our co-teaching. We just started with Stacy Mefford, who is working with one of our consultants when she's here to go in and to be able to observe and provide feedback to teachers about co-teaching and with special education. So what's nice about it is that our staff and our teachers, through our surveys, they also find that they're ready for to hear feedback and to hear suggestions from their colleagues. They're ready to have some of those peer observations. They do it right now. They go in together during some of our professional development, but they're also ready for those department heads to take the next step, to be looking at instruction and giving them some guidance and feedback. Our surveys, last survey we did actually really showed that they have confidence. They have confidence that they have the ability to do it with, once they get a little more training, that they can do it. So that was really positive. Our PBIS coach we have again for the next 100 days. And then agenda item. Sustainability with our leadership team meetings every week and every couple weeks with our extended leadership team. Sustainability is the name of the game. That's all we were talking about Sherry, how she's going to fund all this stuff, and
Right.
she says no, and then I go to Rebecca and she says no, and so then we say, well, let's look, we see where else we can find money, looking at other grants, looking at the NEA to see how they can help fund some initiatives. We're just going all around. They keep saying no, though, so don't worry. They're passing the company line, but I'm going to break them. Don't worry. So those are the kinds of things, and I will. Those are the kinds of things that we're working towards, having those discussions about sustainability, because in the end, we have to continue doing these things. We have to continue with some of the extended learning time, additional compensation for things, and so we have to find a way to do it. So we're trying to build that internal capacity so that we can move forward and continue to sustain some of the goals that we're making. So just kind of some other items. With Romulus Middle School right now, we've started, once we disaggregated our MEP data, we started looking at some short cycle assessments on a monthly basis, where they're looking at discrepancies on how kids did with certain questions on the MEP, certain GLICs, and how those individual departments can reteach those areas. So we're working on that. We're also continuing to develop that early warning system. Always looking at refining it, what kind of interventions we put in place, our attendance interventions. I don't know if you heard from any parents. I mean, for some of them that have gone through a cycle of, charting attendance, they now get robocalls in the morning at 6:30 welcoming them to, be at school and, to get up, it's time to go. So we again, try to find any way that we can to really reach the kids. Our behavior referrals are on the decrease. For the last couple months, we've put in things in place. Our Bulldog Pride this month, we have this big bulldog that we pass around depending on certain hours, and kids in the class can earn percentages by having their materials, being ready for class and such. And then next month we're coming and we're going to start looking at March as a high behavior month, so we're going to start putting some plans in place for that month as well. So, as far as culture and climate, they're going well. We start tomorrow. We're a pilot test site for the Smarter Balanced new assessments, so we're going to be able to see what those next generation of tests are going to look like. And then we start our Explore testing next week, which again is being paid for by the state of Michigan, and it's data that the high school then uses to help gauge success on the ACT as they move forward. So.
Okay, do we have any questions?
I had a question. So Jason, as of November this year, we're done. That would be the end of our grant?
Yes, all funds have to be encumbered, which means we have to spend them out by September 30th, but then we can have services until November 30th. So yes, so as of now, November 30th is the last date.
Okay, so all the things you were telling us about is what we're going to do to sustain what we have.
Right. We are going to be able to sustain our professional development in our in-house system of coaching observations. Where we're going to really struggle is our additional, learning time. I mean, there's no way at this time. There's no way to really fund, $256,000 in order to keep that 25 additional minutes. We're going to have, just some of those things we're going to have difficulty with, but. As far as materials, technology, we have all that. We've built the capacity within the building to sustain those things.
Okay.
So
I know there's a couple positions that are tied to that grant as well, so I guess that's something the board is going to have to look at.
Well, I know that we're, looking at trying to, talk about, Mr. Rourke being the data technology coach throughout the district. And you're going to hear a presentation over here. And so Ms. Williams, who works very closely with Wayne Community College, that, hey, you never know, she could transition to something with them. But, there's some things out there because we want to keep these people. We've invested a lot of training and a lot of time in them. So, absolutely.
Okay. I have a question. You said when the additional learning time, so we extended the school day, is that, so then the day
We've
was-
added 25 minutes to our 24 to be exact, 24 minutes to our school day over the past 3 years. And yes, that as of now, that time will the time will be going away. What we will look at is a couple things. These are just things we're talking about. Is when, for instance, when we have exams, midterms, maybe eliminating those. We also have 3 days a week. We have advisory. We may cut that down to 2. Okay, the SIG doesn't count advisory time as instructional time, but the state does. So that those may be just some other ways to we can kind of play with it. I mean, we've talked about reducing our passing time to 3 minutes. I just with a 2-story building, I think that'd be pushing it. So. We're looking at alternatives to that, but there is going to be a noticeable difference to the length of the school day.
I know this is kind of a trick question in a sense, but how do you think that the teachers, how's the building feeling as far as being able to transition from where you are now to not having those additional services? Are they feeling like it'll be a lot of work but we can handle it, or are they kind of apprehensive? What is the mood?
I think with anything, I think we're still we're on that hump, and we're trying to push through that hump of this is tough work. And I think that they in the last couple months, I mean the heat's been on with MEP scores coming out, and with the sustainability and with these discussions. So I think they're aware. I think they're a little nervous. I think like with anything, but. I think just continuing to move forward with that, the mission and the vision of where we're going, is going to help. But they are. I mean, there is no doubt about it. They are going to see a significant difference in the amount of support, amount of time they have, even everyday class time that they're going to have. They are going to see those differences. So we'll have to make some adjustments.
Any other questions? No? Thank
Okay.
you.
As always, welcome to stop by. 37300 Wick Road.
And the middle school.
Don't come during lunchtime.
The middle school also had a monitoring visit, kind of impromptu. We let us know one day that they're coming
She called the
next
night
day.
before and said, I'm coming in the morning.
But it went very well. So we were really pleased to hear that. So
Yes,
thank
we'd
you,
like to
Mr.
thank
Sullivan.
Margie for hiring her 2 daughters. And now she can stop by anytime.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next, we had an opportunity to hear from our students who got to take the trip to the University of Toledo. And as I mentioned before, our district is one who really advocates ensuring that students have every opportunity to receive the maximum amount of education possible. And so that's kind of our lead-in to our next presentation, and we're going to hear from one of our teams who's been working on our early college initiative for the district.
Alrighty. Good evening once again. I'm here to start off the presentation about the Romulus Early College that we're proposing, which is a partnership between the Romulus Community Schools and Wayne County Community College for our Romulus High School resident and School of Choice students for implementation in the fall. Some brief introductions of our Early College Steering Committee co-facilitators. We have Ms. Lisa Mockridge, who serves as a counselor at the high school. Ms. Rebecca Peck, who serves as HR director for the district. And also we have Mr. Mike Dotson, who's the president of Wayne County Community College Western Campus with us this evening.
Welcome.
So the first question is, what is an early college? Well, the Romulus Early College School will be a public, tuition-free school, which will be a 3-year accelerated program covering grades 11, 12, and 13. It's a combination of high school courses and college courses, and also a college campus experience will be included. And at the end, students will be able to earn 60 to 62 transferable credits and or an associate's. Some of the benefits of the program is early entrance. You know, students enter a college program while they're still in high school. So our students will be entering in this program in grade 11 and finishing in grade 13, 1 year after their senior year. Also, within the early exit, students will be able to complete the associate's degree, or they may be able to gain 60 to 62 credits where they can transfer over to a university. Students may earn up to 62 credits, as I said before, and they're also still completing their high school requirements at the same time. On the next slide, Lisa's going to come up and explain some of the process that we went through before embarking on this endeavor.
Thank you. When the Early College Committee first began, the first thing that we decided was that we needed to survey our community and our students to sort of see what their needs were. Thanks. I might need that. And so we started off, we did a survey that was sent out to parents. It was sent out to 9th and 10th grade parents in the report card. And we also sent out or completed a survey at the high school for 9th and 10th graders. So all 9th and 10th graders took this survey. So to begin with, the first question, and I believe this is in your board packet, is to parents, asking them if they would, parents and students, would you be interested in earning an associate's degree while in high school? Well, overwhelmingly, the answer was yes. We had 92% of our 9th graders, 86% of our 10th graders were interested, and then all students, 89%, and of course, almost every parent was interested. They were thinking money, time. 98% of our parents were interested. The next question, see I screwed it up already, fix it for me, Rebecca. So the next question that we asked, that is in your packet, is, now with that, between the three of us, we'll get this. But the next question that we asked was, if that means adding on a 5th year of high school, are you still interested? And we kind of wondered if that would be a deal breaker. You know, when you talk to a 9th or 10th grade student and say, stay an extra year with us, they kind of get a little panicky and start to squirm, like, really? You told us we shouldn't be here 5 years. So, but then, when we started to talk about what that 5th year meant, the data showed that they are interested. 68% of our 9th graders were interested, 56% of 10th graders, so for 62% of all students, and of course, parents still was really high. Still 85% of our parents were saying, yes, this is a program that we're interested in.
I'm sorry.
What am I not doing?
I'm sorry, Lisa. Can everybody in the audience see that, or do you need us to adjust the lights?
Is everyone okay? Can you? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Oh, so now Rebecca's going to be my clicker. This is going to go much better. So the next question was, if you were going to receive an associate's degree, what type of program would you be interested? Because we surveyed for 2 types of programs. One, would you be interested in getting an associate's degree that would transfer to a 4-year university, or an associate's degree that was a terminal degree for a technical or career-related program? Again, you can see the statistics show that most of our parents and students were interested in that transferable associate's degree. So that was sort of the path that we started looking at based on the data that we received. And then our next question that we asked was transportation. Because as you know, the district would not be providing transportation for our students to participate in these courses, just a cost that we would not be able to take care of. So we asked parents what times of days or weekends would they be available to provide transportation. And as you can see, many of the parents said even day, evening, or weekends, as well as students, they would be able to provide transportation. And of course, there is always the concern. There were some families and students that did say transportation is not something we would be able to do. So early colleges have been around for a while. I think the earliest one started at Washtenaw Community College about 12 years ago. But here are some local area early college programs. There's an early college program at Eastern Michigan University that is housed on their campus. It's a partnership between Eastern Michigan and Washtenaw Intermediate School District. There's a program with Henry Ford Community College that is through Dearborn Public Schools, as well as Oakland Early College, which is West Bloomfield Public Schools, and then the Monroe Community College, which is through their ISD. These programs are mostly housed on the community college campuses versus the high school community college partnership that we'll talk about in a moment. So who is eligible? So when we start to look at what students are we wanting to be part of this program, students would enter this program in the fall of their 11th grade year. So they would begin that application process at the end of their 10th grade year. So the first requirement is they must be a registered Romulus high school student at the end of that 10th grade year to be able to enroll in the program. They must submit an early college application packet, which I have here. Just take one and pass them down, which we'll review in just a moment. They will also be required to take a placement test. That placement test will be actually administered at Wayne County Community College's campus. It's the COMPASS test. It's a test that's used for all students entering community college. It's another ACT administered type test just to see where students fall in terms of math and their English skills, to make sure that we are looking at students that are college ready, able to complete college work. We want them to be successful. So they must have completed the application process and then be approved by the committee. And the early college committee is going to be using sort of a holistic approach. So I think the next slide is the... Okay, I'll talk about the application in just a moment. But some things that we're looking at for our students when we look at college readiness standards. Of course, academics are important, but those aren't the words that we have up here. We want students to be academically prepared. We're looking for students that are academically successful, but we're also really looking for students that are mature, they're motivated, they show self-discipline, they're career-focused, they're self-reliant, they're adaptable, which means that they're able to function in the college culture and in an adult atmosphere. Because when we have them on the college campus, they're going to be there with students from all ages, all walks of life, that they're going to be able to be in classes with those students. And we had an opportunity to visit Oakland Early College. And one of the things that the director there shared with us is the first things that she looks at in terms of admitting students is not academics. She looks at behavior records, attendance, and teacher recommendations. Because you're really looking for that student that's driven, focused, and really wants to be part of this program. Okay, the important things. Everyone's going to ask, especially the students. They want to know if I'm staying on for 13th year of high school, can I go to prom? Because that's a deal breaker. So that's really important. So yes, students would be participating in all of their regular senior activities in that 12th grade year. So that 12th grade year, they would go to prom. They would participate in graduation with their cohort class as 12th graders, now understanding that they are still coming back for that 13th year, and they will not be receiving that diploma on that day, but they still would be part of that graduation ceremony because that's important to them, their friends, and their families. All senior activities and senior life would take place that 12th grade year. The 13th year, they would really be a guest at the high school. So they would just be at the high school, and we look at the schedule in a moment, for just one class period. So that senior year would be kept intact for them socially, which is extremely important. As well as sports. They would only participate in sports through their 12th grade year. They would not be able to participate that 13th year. Okay, the application packet. So this is the packet, the one that you just received, that students would receive when they are interested in entering the program. And some things that we are going to be looking at when we evaluate students to decide whether or not they're a good fit for this program. Absolutely, we're going to be looking at students' cumulative GPAs, and we're going to be looking at their credit situation. These are definitely going to need to be students who are on track credit-wise, because there's not going to be a lot of wiggle room for them in terms of credits. We're going to be looking at their attendance and their behavior data. We want to make sure these are students that are at school, and that there's not any behavioral concerns. We're going to be looking at their standardized test scores, their NWEA scores, because we will not have their plan scores back because the plan will have just been administered the third week in March. So we won't have those in time, but we'll be able to get a good idea from their NWEA scores. We will also be looking at their essays, and if you turn to the third page in the packet, there are 6 student essays that we are asking students to complete. And these essay questions, I think, are important because we really want to gauge a student's commitment and interest to the program. We want to know how they may have handled conflicts in the past. We want to know, why is this a good fit for them? We also want to know, where do they see themselves after graduation? So we will definitely take essays into account, as well as teacher recommendations. In the packet, there's a copy of one teacher recommendation. Each student will be required to turn 2 recommendations into us. We are asking that one of those recommendations be from a core content high school teacher that they have had. So we want to make sure that from one of our own teachers, what they think of that student's academic ability and how they have been for them in class. And lastly, of course, we are going to evaluate how they do on the compass test that they will take at Wayne County Community College to see where their college readiness levels fall. This is a commitment. This is a big commitment. We are asking students and parents to commit to us for 3 years to be part of this program. And one of the forms in the packet that parents and students will ask to be signed, which is right before the end, is a parent-student commitment. We are asking that by signing this, they are signing on for grades 11, 12, and 13. And we will stress that to students and parents, that you are committing to this 13th year of high school so that you can gain this associate's degree. And we are asking them, or by signing this, letting them know that if for any reason they need to stop being part of this program, they will be responsible for reimbursing Romulus Community Schools for any tuition or fees paid to Wayne County Community College. Transportation options. This is something just kind of wanted to throw in there. Did a little research, not a lot of research yet, but as things move forward, we will do a little more research and see what we can work out. Knowing transportation is an issue for parents and families during the school day. I just called a couple local cab transportation companies. This was totally what came up on my phone on Yelp, so if anyone has other ideas. These 2 companies are local companies, and the first one, if we had 8 students that needed to go from the high school to Wayne County Community College, they mapped it out for me, it would be $25 for all 8 of them, which is about $3.15 a student for a one-way trip to Wayne County Community College. For 4 students, it's $15, so it's a very reasonable expense if they needed to have transportation, if their parents could not take them, or if they didn't have transportation of their own, if they were students that were not driving. Just trying to take away as many barriers as possible. I figured it out. If you had to do it for an entire semester, twice a week, because the beauty of college classes is they don't meet every day, it would be about $112 a semester for 2 days a week. Okay, so I think this one, this is me. The high school graduation requirements are going to change for these students a little bit, but they are going to only change in terms of the number of elective credits needed for graduation.
Hi, Kenny.
Mr. Hurd is really good at shutting off cell phones. He will take care of this.
Right? With his foot?
So we will be adjusting the graduation. They're calling again.
Go outside.
Here, you want to borrow this?
So we are going to modify the graduation requirements for these students. Now, obviously we cannot modify the Michigan merit requirements. So the students that are part of this program will still have to earn the core Michigan Merit Curriculum. That will not change. Where we have changed the requirements is, if you notice, under electives. The elective credits have gone down to 5, where for our present high school students, that number is 9. So, and our high school graduation requirements presently are 27.5. For the early college students, it will be 23.5. So that will be the change. Schedules. So we've put together some sample schedules for so if you're wondering, what is a day for these students going to look like when they are part of this program? So when they start in their 11th grade year, they would be at the high school for first, second, and third hour, taking the required English, math, economics, chemistry, and ACT prep. Then they would be transitioning after that to Wayne County Community College. The first thing that we would do is when we first arrive at Wayne County Community College, we would have a seminar class where the students are together to kind of talk about what maybe happened in their last college course, some study skills, some things to make sure they're prepared for the college courses that they are taking. If you notice, under the first 2 college courses, for each semester, we have cohort next to it. What that means is each semester, those students are going to be taking classes with just Romulus High School students. So the speech class first semester will be just Romulus High School students. We thought that was a nice way. We're trying to build in as much support as possible and sort of gradually wean them into this college experience. But it would be taught on Wayne County Community College's campus with one of their faculty members. And then the second semester, they would take biology, the same. That would just be Romulus High School students. Now, their second course each semester, we're telling them what class they have to take. So we're saying that everyone is going to take the American Government and the African American Experience class for social science credit, but they can choose when they want to take it based on what works in their schedule. So for some of our students, that might mean they take it in the evening because that's what works for them and their family. Some may try to take it right after their speech class, so they only have to go to campus once. Some may choose to take it on the weekends, depending on Wayne County Community College's schedule and what works for them. And the same goes for the second semester with the American Government course. They can take it whatever time works into their schedule, but we are saying you have to take that class because we want all students in the same class for the first year to be able to provide as much support for the beginning as possible. And you'll also see there's a summer semester. At some point throughout this program, students are going to need to take 3 to 5 additional college credits outside of what we have planned in for them, just in order to be able to get to the 60 credit hours. So they may choose to do it that first semester between 11th and 12th. They may choose to do it between 12 and 13. Or some students may say, you know what, I can double up in one of my other semesters. But that will be decided and approved by ourselves at Romulus High School as well as Wayne County Community College when that additional courses are taken. The other thing that it's denoted up the top, which I skipped over. If you notice, the very first course that students are going to take is a community college orientation class. Those students will take that in the summer, the week before college courses begin. So college courses are going to begin August 20th. The week prior, we're going to spend 5 days on the college campus taking that class, learning how to use the resources of the community college, learning how to use the Learning Resource Center, where to go for tutoring, how to find an academic advisor, some study skills, what to do if your professor uses Blackboard. Some of those skills that they're going to need to have will take place that week before school starts. Their 12th grade year. So we're weaning them down a little bit from our support services, which is hard for us because that's, especially being a counselor, that's what I do. But so their 12th grade year, they will take 2 courses at the high school. They will be required to take a math course in order to meet the Michigan Merit Curriculum requirements, and then an elective at the high school, or depending on how the student did that 11th grade year. If we have a student that is struggling that 11th grade year, we would require that they take a seminar class as their elective, a study skills or sort of a tutoring class as their elective to make sure that they're on target. And then as in their 11th grade year, 2 of the courses for each semester we have already mapped out for them. we're requiring. All of our students are going to take these 2 courses each semester, and then that 3rd course is an approved elective. Now, it's going to be extremely important, and it's something that we will monitor, as well as Wayne County Community College will monitor, that they are only taking electives that will meet those associate degree requirements, as well as transfer to a local university. And one of the things that we will work with students on is, especially in that 12th grade year, looking at where do I want to transfer to, because that becomes important to make sure they take courses that are going to transfer to the school of their choice. And again, they possibly may choose for their summer semester to be in between that 12th and 13th grade year. Now for the 13th grade year, like we said, they would only be at the high school for 1 class. We would call them guest students. That class would be scheduled in the morning, so they would probably come to the high school first thing. The course that they would be taking, that we would be holding back, is English 12, and that's part of how we can keep them for 5 years, and also is holding back 1 graduation requirement, and so we decided for that to be their English 12 course. And then the rest of their classes would be on Wayne County Community College's campus. So they would basically have a full-time college schedule that 13th year. Like most of their friends that had left after the 12th grade year, they would be full-time college students. And I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Hurd. Thank you.
What we put together here is a timeline for the application process and during a typical year for the Romulus Early College. We will begin in December with putting together the brochures and sending that information out to the students at Romulus Middle School, also students at the high school, as well as those families that are outside of our district and those families that are at the local charter schools. And then in January, we will start our more of our media exposure or our media blitz and application process. And then in late to early February is where we will start our parent-student information nights and also distribute the applications to those that are interested. And then in March, we will start with our, have our applications due and start with our competence testing and things of that nature. And then April will lead to the notification as well as open house. And then on through August, where you have those summer intensives, and then classes beginning in September of the following school year. With us trying to implement this for the upcoming 2013-14 school year, our timeline is a little bit more aggressive. What you see coming up next week will be some of those mailings or parent invitations sent out, as well as some dates set for parent meetings coming up within the next 2 or 3 weeks, and we're having applications due March 28th. And then on the April 12th, that's when we will have a field trip of sorts, where we will take those students that have applied and met those particular criteria over to take the compass test on the campus at the Western campus. And then later we will be sending out the acceptance letters in mid-April. And then August leads us back to our summer intensive, and then classes beginning in late August, and then the regular high school classes beginning in early September. Next, Ms. Peck's going to talk about the wraparound services.
Thank you. So Lisa and Hal talked a lot about how the program's going to work, and I wanted to make sure that the board understood what the importance of what we call wraparound services. The state has 2 definitions of an early college. They have an early college program, and they have an early college school. We are going to make application to become an early college school. In order to be an early college school, you have to have extensive wraparound services embedded in the design and development of your program. A school is just what it's called. It is its own school. We'll have Romulus High School. We'll have Romulus Early College School. We'll have Community High School. We'll be operating 3 high schools in the district, and they all serve a specific need of our student population. Some of the wraparound services that we've embedded in, Lisa talked a lot about the Romulus Early College Seminar. That is very much a wraparound service. Those aren't programs that you would find in an early college program or a dual enrolled program. Kids are kind of sent off to community college, and we hope for the best. The wraparound service means that we're looking at the whole student, their college experience as well as their high school experience, and making sure that we move them from high school into post-secondary successfully. So some of the wraparound services that Romulus Community Schools will be providing will be a program facilitator and an on-site mentor. Those are costs that are going to be built into the program. We will have individualized graduation planning and personalized scheduling. Lisa kind of alluded to that fact, but I can't emphasize enough the amount of scheduling that is going to be required in the collaboration between Romulus as well as the Western Campus of Wayne County. And then again, we talked a little bit about the REC seminar, as we call it. That's where tutoring and individualized program support will occur, and we'll have that available at all levels in the program. We've kind of got a scaled approach to it. Wayne County Community College will be providing a dedicated academic advisor. They'll also be providing tutoring services at the college level. They're also creating a program, the College Readiness Intensive Program, which is that summer program. They'll be working with us in developing that specifically for our students. They've guaranteed that they will have some individualized program instructor selection, which is really important as we built our partnership with the Western Campus. You know, they recognize that not all instructors are created equal. And this is a very unique student population that we want to make sure that we get them from point A to point Z. And sometimes the instructor is an important part of that mix as well. So they recognize that, and they'll work with us on individualizing that instructor selection for the program. Also, some of the things that we're still talking about are online course orientation programming. Some of those college level skills that students will need, we'll embed that into the program as we move forward. So the thing that I get to stand before you and talk about is the budget. The budget it's a moving target at this point because we don't know how many students we're going to get into this program, and there are so many variables when planning to allocate for the next year. I mean, we're going to be coming before you and asking you to tell us, you know, how much we can spend next year. And I'm not exactly sure how many early college students we're going to have. So I did a few scenarios, and I want to explain what the budget means. I did a 25, a 40, and a 50 cohort group. Today I just have a 25 and a 50 to show you. If we had 25 students in our cohort, so that means each year we recruited and approved 25 students to be in the early college program, our year one cost would be about $150,000. Okay? So what does that cost entail? That's credit hours, that's college fees, that's the cost of our program facilitation and our wraparound services. All of those things are baked into that $149,000. Books, thank you. Lab fees. These are those they're the fees that kind of sit on top.
And all that's included.
In this.
Yeah.
That is
Books
correct.
are included in this too?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Oh, yes. And just so you know, when we do budgeting, you know, Sherry has taught me well, we plan for the worst case scenario, but we program manage for the best case scenario.
Because there's discussion, and I know that this will come in the implementation phase,
Mm-hmm.
but there was discussion about us purchasing the books and then renting them to the students, right?
And that's kind of, again, I planned for the worst. So this is assuming that we have to purchase a textbook for every student for every class.
Gotcha.
But then we would program for the best case scenario. We found out in our discussions with Wayne County Community College that they do have a book, Mr. Dotson, what's the name for it, where you guys use the books every 2 years, a cycle, if you will. Yeah. So we know that we're going to be able to get probably 2 good years out of some of those books, and Lisa kind of shared with you, we're specifying some of those courses. And we're doing that for 2 reasons, because they're good general education courses, and we can save some costs because we can then reutilize those textbooks. So yes, we are looking at ways that we can do that. Again, this is a worst case scenario.
But now out of those 25 students, say we shoot and we get 25 students and 13 of them come from out of district, we're going to get the FTEs for that though too, right? To
Thank you.
Bring money in.
See, you're working this for me.
That's right. Yes, sir. I'm just trying to
You are
work it.
working this for me because one of the things that I know that the board is very concerned, and as we all are, we lose students between the middle school and the high school. Why are we losing those kids? Maybe this is a way for us to capture and retain those students, and then with the decision that this table made last month, we now are school of choice at the high school. And trust me when I say, the building principal has already been aggressively going out to our charter schools, and we laugh. But parents are shopping for a high school.
Yes.
Charter schools don't want to run high schools. They don't, because it's expensive to run a high school. We all feel that. So we have a great opportunity to go and capture those students that, these parents are shopping around right now. And from a marketing perspective, if we can get in there and capture 30 to 50 of those students each year, these costs kind of go by the wayside. We've now, I'll show you the happy chart on that.
Can you throw the FTA cost out? What is that figure?
Per student,
Roughly?
$8,392.
Which if you get 15, that's over 120.
And how many
in
cents?
some sense.
Right. Around at 8,000. It's 120.
So this is a 25 student cohort. If we're able to step this up, and again, we'll know more when our first application process goes through, because I know what the parents and the students said they wanted, but now the rubber's hitting the road. Who's going to come forward for this? I know if I would love to go into this program personally. I think this is great. This is the 50 cohort, so everything is equal. So now it's doubled. Now here's the thing that the other piece of the puzzle. There are some costs that we can minimize. If we have this many students that are going off to Wayne County Community College, in reality, I am going to be able to reduce some staff. I am going to be able to reduce some instructional staff. And there's no secret about that. The early college committee had teachers on it, it had union, it had everybody. Everybody knows that this is a possibility. But if our school of choice opens up, and I'm going to take the sunny side of the street, we won't need to lay off any instructional staff, because we'll have kids kind of clamoring to get into the programming. Because this is just one piece of the great that Romulus Community Schools offers. So what else do we have on the budget? Any other questions?
I have questions.
Sure.
First of all, hi board. How everybody's doing?
Welcome.
Hi everybody in the audience. Hey everybody on the TV. I'm sorry I'm late a little bit. I came from Wayne County Community College myself, and I spoke to Miss Taylor in regards to this information, and I was finishing up my last touches due to the fact that we got our packets a little late, and on Friday everything was closed, so I was trying to get in there and get as much as I could done. So I apologize for that, but I do have a couple questions that I have in regards to this information. Now on here it says per cost per student is $5,996. This is just for the first one I'm looking at, for $149,908. And I just was happening, like I said, to look through the website a little bit, and I looked at the, is this the dependent student in district cost, or would this be out of district? Because the tuition and fees here says $2,404. And that the supplies would be $2,300. So how does that?
So let me explain
work?
Let me explain how we did our budget.
Okay.
We looked at each grade level, grade 11, 12, and 13. So an 11th grader that's in the program, our maximum liability, and that's what we budgeted to as our worst case scenario, is 17 credits. So a student could be in most likely we will have to pay for 17 credits their 11th grade year. 22 credits their 12th grade year, and 24 credits their 13th year.
Okay.
So that's the number of credits that we baked into the dollar amount that you see there for each grade level. We based it on our credit hour of $99 per credit hour, but I'm still working on that.
Take coupons?
I am definitely still working on that. And then what we did was we said, okay, for the 11th grade year, you're going to take 5 classes. That's what 17 credits equates to.
Okay.
The 12th grade year, it's going to be 7 classes, and the 13th year, it's 8 classes. We said for books, we're going to plan for $75 per class for books. So their first year, we're budgeting for each student $375, 5 classes. For their 12th grade year, $525 for 7 classes. You following me on this?
Okay.
Their science labs, we knew that they were going to be taking science labs each year, potentially each year, at least one 11th grade year and one 12th grade year. So we budgeted another $75 per lab, so that's one 11th, one 12th, and one 13, which gave us a total cost per student. So I know what you're looking at, Ms.
Right.
Bowles, was their schedule for kids that are, you're kind of going there on your own. And I used a lot of that same data
Okay.
to come up with this.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense.
That makes sense? Okay.
Okay. See. And you said that these books that we would have them for a total of 2 years, you said?
That's the average cycle, is 2 years for a textbook, and then they go through a committee review. And I'm sure in some situations they retain the same textbook for another year, but 2 years is the minimum of their cycle. They don't let instructors, which we certainly appreciate, and I'm sure your students do too, kind of go rogue every year and change their mind of what they want to, what textbooks they want to use. So at least 2 years we'll be able to get money out of
Question
them.
to the textbooks. Are any of these textbooks, are they available online where the students could,
Like a Kindle?
they could then just put them on there, so we wouldn't have to
Some of
actually
them.
physically buy?
Right, some of them. I don't think all of them. Yeah.
Also, many different options for purchasing textbooks. We discussed this earlier on, that there's a better price halfway across the country from mail order internet. By all means, that's the best option.
Yeah.
So what the college is committed to doing is giving us the ISDN numbers. So we will know before that class what those exact textbooks are, so that we can go out and shop around and find the best. We're not married to the Wayne County bookstore, even though they're lovely folks. But we'd definitely be looking for,
But students would have the option of having actually an online copy or a physical copy.
We'll have to figure out how that would work in our system, because remember, we're providing the textbooks.
Right.
So if we have to make sure that because we're not providing those devices to read those textbooks.
Right, right.
Right.
But if a student had their own and they could download the books on, to their device.
Right.
then-
If we could get it cheaper that way.
Yeah, we're just budgeting
cheaper to get
the
that.
worst
And I
case
was gonna
scenario.
say,
Right.
she's
Right.
looking at
Right.
it as a worst case scenario,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
So this amount would be added to our debt that we have already. Is that correct, Sherry?
Yes, but remember what someone mentioned here, we could possibly bring in potential FTEs that would more than offset it. Is it a guarantee?
No.
No.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, Lisa just wanted me to remind the board that 5th year, because we're going with an early college school, we get the full FTE for that student. And that's
Exactly.
not something we would normally get for,
Right.
That's
I
an
mean-
extra $8,300 per student.
Per
that
student.
we receive.
I have one
That's
more
right.
question too. Would this program be eligible to students on an IEP, like, or maybe just learning disabled?
Absolutely.
Or
Yes.
whatever?
Absolutely.
And would they be able to get their IEP supports at Wayne County also?
Mr. Dotson can as well. Colleges do use a little bit different criteria than the high school does for what accommodation students can use. There's not an IEP that transfers to the college. Maybe I should have handed this to Sue. But they do look at the student's last evaluation, and that's what they'll use to determine accommodations, and the college would support those.
I have a question in regards to the equivalency amount for each credit for each class. I was doing some research and I looked online and I saw that it said course-to-course equivalency, and that's pretty much the amount of credits that will transfer to a university from Wayne County Community College. So when I looked at that, I wanted to find out more information in regards to how that affects students in regards to a timeline. And the reason why I asked that information is because when you go to a university with the equivalency information, they change that information in regards to what they will allow credit for and what they won't allow credit for. So I looked a little deeper and I saw that they had a list online of different universities where about some of the information in regards to the classes that are able to transfer over hadn't been updated since 2007. So that really kind of bothered me as a board member, because I felt like as a student, you know, as when a student goes into this program or get ready to start this program, it could be in between those time frames whereby they already have changed over the amount of credits that they're willing to accept. Then I looked a little further and I found out that there were specific colleges that were not accepted. So I looked on that list and I found information where there was information in regards to like University of Michigan, Dearborn was accepted, but let's say University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, they don't accept that. Even information in regards to Michigan State, it wasn't accepted. And I didn't see any information on there that said anything about information about these credits being acceptable outside of Michigan. So I asked the question when I went to speak to Ms. Taylor in regards to how does that work out. And she stated to me that, you know, it's kind of an unknown factor. So in other words, there's a possibility that you might have some of these, some of the students take these classes, and therefore if things are not if the plan is not actually looked at in depth, that they can take these courses, pass them, then when they get ready to go to the next level, the courses won't transfer. So that kind of bothered me, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention because, like I said, I did do a little research on it. I also asked her specifically in regards to what's the grade per level that they allowed to transfer over. She stated to me it was definitely like a C average, but she said for the Romulus School District, we can set our own. And I was kind of like, okay, because I know that if you have a student that has a D average, even though we may accept that, they can't take that and then transfer that to a university and expect to get credit for it in regards to those courses. So I thought that was something that you want to look into a little deeper and just get a better understanding of what specific colleges have their equivalency information up to date, and exactly how long the period of time does it stay to that, how long is the period going to be whereby they accept those specific courses from Wayne County Community College, so that the kids know ahead of time how much of a leeway that they have, so that they don't take the classes and then,
And I think
yeah.
Ms. Mockridge can address some of
I can definitely answer some of those questions that you have, and I know that Mr. Dotson can probably chime in. There's something called the macro agreement, which you probably are referring to.
Yep.
And one of the things that we would make sure that students do early on in the program, at the end of that 11th grade year, is they do really need to be thinking about what university do they want to transfer to, because you want to make sure that those courses are going to transfer to that university. And that's where the macro agreement comes into play,
Right.
where they make sure that they're taking those courses off of that list, so that they're going to get credit for where they're going to go.
Right.
And when we met with Wayne County, and we met with we asked them that exact we asked a lot of those great questions, because those are the exact same questions
I
that
remember you were in a meeting when I went. How are you?
Oh, sorry.
Good.
We asked a lot of those exact same questions. So we would make sure, and that would be one of the things that the program facilitator would be responsible for, is making sure that students are only going to take those transferable courses. Now, you're right with out of state. We can control Michigan. The agreements that we have, that Wayne County Community College has, is those are with Michigan colleges. What I have always recommended high school students that are looking at going to community college that want to transfer to an out-of-state school is contact that school directly at that time and find out from that college or university what courses they're going to take and what courses are going to transfer.
And that's where our wraparound services come into play, is when they would meet with their academic advisors, whether it be with us or with WC3. And
I really think that's one of the beauty of this program, is that we'll have that service, because a lot of times I see our high school students come back that have gone to community college, and no fault to the community college at all, but they go in and they just sign up for a bunch of classes. And they're allowed to do that because now they're adults and they're choosing these classes, and they're not going into it with the idea of where do I want to transfer. And it's even not where do I want to transfer, but what do I want to study when I transfer. If I'm going to go into engineering and transfer to a particular school, well, there's particular math classes I have to take and particular other courses that I have to take, and we'll be able to help them by providing some of those services to them. And I know Mr. Dotson can answer some of those other
Ms. Mockridge.
And really what we're talking about here is articulation agreements that are in place between Wayne County Community College District and the universities within the state of Michigan.
Those agreements are also in place with many universities outside of the state of Michigan. So again, as we talked about, it's very important to get those universities identified as early as possible, but we also feel, in some of the discussions that we've had already, what we want to do differently is get those universities involved with us. So as we start to identify what those possible partners may be, they're going to have some skin in the game as well. They're going to see that we've got a potential cohort of students that are interested in coming to their 4-year program. And they start to be a little bit more flexible when they see that there's some guaranteed students coming their way. But again, the whole goal is to make sure that these credits transfer to a university. We don't want to waste any students' time whatsoever. We don't want to waste any resources. As we all know, we're doing a lot more with a lot less. And we know that families are getting squeezed, and it is getting virtually impossible for some families to afford higher education. This plan really is an inventive plan to make sure that that happens. So we will definitely work with the families to make sure that every possible credit transfers and get that done as early as possible.
Well, thank you for that. I really do. I appreciate that. As I said, as I was looking at it, I was really trying to look ahead of time and think down the line, because I know as a 9th, 10th grader and 11th grader, you're not necessarily sure what you want to do. You don't know that. So for you to be able to say, okay, well, this is the university that I want to go to right now, that's going to change, because as you grow, you get older, you change. So to be able to start so early with a program like this without necessarily having the evidence to show that, okay, from this specific class, or excuse me, for this specific university, we know that this is a contract that's going to be in effect for the next 5 years, I still feel a little bit on the borderline about that. Like maybe there's some more research needs to be done on that, because I just pulled this up today. As I said, I was a little late. But as I pulled this information up, I'm seeing on here all of the stuff here in regards to classes from Michigan. And then I'm seeing even information on here that's last dated since 2009, 2007. You know, so this stuff needs to be updated in order to let us know what is available and what the students can do. And I just still feel until we actually have that information in front of us, and until that can be put together, that might be something we need to look into. I do think this is a great program, but I think it needs a little tweaking to it, just a little bit, personally.
And just to speak to that for just a moment, one of the things that we did in designing this program, because you're absolutely right, not many of us know coming in as an 11th grader what college we want to go to and what we're going to study. I started out as an athletic trainer, and here I am. So, but we chose classes that are general studies courses that pretty much any university you transfer to, everybody is going to take a speech course. Everybody is going to take an American government course. Everybody is going to take 2 English courses, so chemistry and biology. So we really chose those courses very carefully to make sure that they would be easily transferable courses for students. Now, to speak to the U of M, and I hope not to offend anyone, but U of M is picky. And they're not great about, and Mr. Dotson can probably speak to this, they're not great in terms of transferring in general in terms of courses. But I think if we look at some of those same agreements with Western Central, at some of the other universities, you'll see that they're very good transfer and macro agreements.
Okay. There's other, I've got Mrs. Funderburg and then Mr. Thede, and then we'll go to Mrs. Kraut.
Okay, I know we had spoken a little bit about the associate's degree in comparison to just the flat-out credits. Could you kind of give a bit of an explanation on that associate's degree? Because I know one of the things that it kind of made it click for me was that an associate's degree is accepted at any university. It's when you begin to specialize in certain courses like the electives in that 13th year where that discrepancy. So could you kind of explain that a little bit, please?
And actually, Mr. Dotson might be the best one to answer that question.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The 2 main degrees that we were looking at is the Associate of Arts and the Associate of Science in General Studies. And those contain the courses, as we were just talking about, that transfer to the most institutions. They're also the most adaptable courses as well. We're not looking at offering programs that are specialized programs in either career areas or any other specializations, but those programs that would allow the students the widest breadth of experience and the widest opportunities as they're transferring on to institutions. And what we're looking at here with this program would be those types of courses. These courses will transfer directly, as we talked about the Michigan Transfer Network, that's what we're talking about online, which shows directly what courses transfer as specific courses at your university, but there's also a lot of courses that transfer as general credit as well. And that's the majority of the courses that we're talking about in this program here. And actually, when you came to the campus this morning, I was meeting with University of Michigan Flint, Michigan State University, Ferris State University, University of Detroit Mercy, all at the University Center. And they are all very interested in partnering with us on this program. So what you see when you go out and you look at what they traditionally accept as transfer credit is very out of date. Things are changing very quickly in higher education, as we see in the K through 12 as well. It's becoming very, very competitive. Those lines are blurring. And what we have to do is learn how to be adaptable very quickly so we can maneuver through those lines and have the greatest opportunity for the students.
Is that all, Ms. Bonneville?
Oh, no, no. Ms. Mockridge, how would this program affect a student that is, like my child is in music program? Would they be able to still take their electives in music at the high school, because that's like a 1 year, they take it all year, or is it more concentrated to those core courses? So how would it impact those students who really kind of look forward to or are really focused already in their high school years, like art or music, or I guess it's integrated technologies, they have strains?
There's definitely going to be some impact for those courses. Okay. The year that it's going to be impacted the most is that 11th grade year. If you look at the 11th grade schedule, the student will not have any elective courses at the high school. Their schedule is set between the high school courses and the college courses. Now, coming into their 12th grade year, you notice that elective comes back. So if a student was in band, they would not be able to do band as an 11th grader as a course, but they still would be eligible to participate in marching band and pep band after school. But then they could pick band back up in that 12th grade year.
Okay. And then as far as who keeps track of the grades, how is that part of that wraparound service that you guys are going to incorporate as far as keeping track of the grades from the university, from the college, the community college?
Yes, that's one of the services that we would provide. And we've spoken with Wayne County about being able to do some progress monitoring of our students, which is not something that's typically done at the community college level, but being able to get some progress on our students midway through courses to see how they're doing, so that we can catch those students early if they're struggling in courses. We would also ask that students turn in syllabus to us, to us, for any course that they are taking, so that we would have all the information on, the faculty members and things that they're taking their courses with.
Okay, and then I guess just for our audience, the western campus is which one?
It is the one in Belleville on Haggerty Road. It is 4 miles exactly from the high school.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Thied?
My first question was answered by Danielle's first question about the associates. I'd just like to go back to, you mentioned that the student can walk with the class in 12th grade, but I looked at in the 13th year, they take the math for the...
Yes, the English.
Now, what is the safety net if something happens to that student in his 13th year? Will he still get a diploma? How do we have that safety net that if he walks with his class, technically, is he graduated?
No.
But he don't get his diploma. So what happens in the 13th year? There's some medical problem or, some unforeseen thing. How do we get his diploma to that student now?
Well, they would still have to complete that English course, because that is part of the Michigan Merit Curriculum. So we would have to, as in any situation that comes up, those special circumstances, we'd probably have to deal with them on a case-by-case basis. But in order to receive the high school diploma, they would have to complete that English 12 course. That's kind of our safety, too, to hold that course back.
I just want to make sure,
But they would be allowed to complete that, though, if
we will give them every
something
opportunity
to complete the course.
And also, obviously, would we have to bring our counselors up to any? Obviously, the questions we had about what can transfer. Obviously, we have to make sure these students understand what they can accomplish with this early college. So our counselors are all up to date. They're going to work hand in hand with the Wayne County counselors to bring these kids in.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Say, here's what you can expect when you get out of this program, and here's what you can expect.
Right. And that's one of the services that Wayne County is providing to us by giving us a designated academic advisor. So, because for a typical Wayne County Community College student, just so you know, they can walk in and see any academic advisor. Our students would only be able to see one academic advisor, and every course they take would have to be signed off by the high school as well as the academic advisor at Wayne County.
Okay. Mrs. Kraut.
Well, I would just like to say I see this as a very good win-win because for the student to be able to go out with an associate's degree, his job opportunities are so much better than with just a high school. Even if only half the credits transfer, it's a year free that the parents haven't had to pay for. So for me, I see it as a win-win for parents and students.
Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Thie just thought of another question. I'm sorry.
Did somebody
were you
have
done,
one?
Sandy?
Go ahead. If
No, that was
I
it.
can wait. If someone else got one.
Cheryl, did you have any question?
I got everything. I'm listening. I got everything.
Mrs. B,
answered.
did you have?
I'm good.
Go ahead, Jen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We'll
You know,
ahead
I
to
just
John.
want to go back to, you talked about the early colleges in the other areas, like Oakland and Henry Ford. Did you happen to get like a success rate of that, or did the other districts have any influx of students coming into their district to take this? Did we?
Well, the only one that is really run by a specific school district is the one at Oakland, which is run by West Bloomfield. Now, they had 160 to 175 students, and out of that, only 25 of them, I believe, were West Bloomfield students in their particular program. Don't quote me on that. It was similar to that. The number was pretty close. So they were seeing students wanting to come into that program. You know, I will say that since the word has gotten out, I have received phone calls at the high school wanting information about this program.
From out residents?
They didn't specify, so I don't know if but I'm getting questions. A lot of them are actually coming from middle school parents. So I don't know if the word is out at the middle school.
Mrs. Bowles, did you have anything else?
I just want to say, I think, like I said, I think it's a good program. I think it still needs further research into it. And I just kind of feel until some of the dots are still connected, like you said, you're still in meeting with certain schools, that information needs to come together and have more of an option on all the options on the table for us to look at and then move from there personally. I do like the ideal, no doubt about it, about being able to obtain a associate's degree, but I do feel like we want to make sure we make as many options as possible to the students to have, because that's the whole ideal, is to make sure that not only can they get a degree, but then they can then carry that degree on to the next step. And it seems like there's still some things that still needs to be worked out in the process of that. And then I'm looking at, I understand what you're saying about how we will receive so much money for each student, but like you said, that's if. Everything is an if. It's not something in stone. It's not something that we know a certain amount that we will be receiving, but we know we got a $2 million debt. We know that. So, you know, I still feel like I would love to work on this and kind of get a way of kind of, like I said, filling in the loopholes. But as of being able to say up front personally that it's a goal, right now I'm kind of on the back end with that.
Thank you. The comments that I wanted to make, they're kind of like to address this to the entire board and to the community and to our listening audience. This is going to be a fluid program. As with any college program, it's a moving target. Articulation agreements are always being modified and improved upon, and we as the sending school district need to be very flexible and accommodating to what the needs of our students, as does our partner. And we have an unequivocal commitment from WC3 that they will work with us through this fluidity that we need to have. An enormous amount of work. Sorry, I'm composing here. This is a very important program for our children.
It is.
And when I brought it to this table last fall, or this fall, a few months ago, I basically dumped it in the lap of our staff. Our staff has worked tirelessly on this program. The hours, the number of meetings put in by our staff, headed up by Rebecca Peck, by Lisa Mockridge, who's here on our birthday, thank you,
Happy birthday.
by Mr. Hurd, with our partners from Wayne County, with our staff, with our parent volunteers, with Ms. Funderburg and myself that sat through these meetings. The enormous work, the enormous support that we have from our superintendent, Dr. Daniels. I cannot thank you enough, because I know, and I know we all do, the amount of work that went through. This looks like, oh, it's just an 8-page PowerPoint. But the data that was involved and the work that has come forth, we're at a crossroads now, as was said in the fall when we first authorized our staff to go through the review process, that for this to be put in place for the fall of 2013, we needed to be flexible as a board and understand, and still, a year from now, there still may be some maps that aren't complete. This is a fluid process. But we also knew we had to be aggressive. Our staff has to be able to enroll these students in the program for the fall semester. Let's call it what it is. We have to be competitive with neighboring school districts. If we don't jump on this now, there's nothing to prevent our neighboring school districts from deciding, well, Romulus dropped the ball, we'll pick it up. We have a very real opportunity here. And I understand that there's some apprehensions. I have every faith that our staff, with our guidance and our oversight, will do and continue to do what is right for our children. We do need to give our staff direction tonight in your stack, because and I did email out that we were going with a resolution for tonight versus a straight topic sheet because of the actions that need to be taken. And I regret, I apologize that we did not have a resolution included in your Friday packet, but some things just were not possible because of the things that had to come into place. It would be appropriate at this time if somebody wished to make a motion to get it on the floor for discussion.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Funderburg.
I move that the Board of Education adopt the Romulus Early College Program Resolution as presented.
Support.
That's been moved by Mrs. Funderburg, supported by Mrs. Kraut. Mrs. Funderburg, would you please read into the record the resolution?
Yes. Romulus Community School District Board of Education Resolution. Whereas the Romulus Board of Education has authorized the review and planning of a Romulus Early College program, and whereas the Romulus Board of Education believes that this program provides an excellent opportunity for our students to achieve academic excellence, and whereas multiple committee meetings and in-depth analysis of need and expectations of the program have been reviewed, and whereas to facilitate enrollment for the fall of 2013 term, the Romulus Board of Education must act to fully authorize the program. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Romulus Board of Education formally adopts the Romulus Early College Program, and it is further resolved the Superintendent of Schools is authorized and directed to complete the application process with the Michigan Department of Education. And it is further resolved that the Superintendent of Schools is authorized and directed to complete the partnership agreement with Wayne County Community College. And it is further resolved that the Superintendent of Schools is authorized and directed to amend the required high school credits for graduation for those enrolled in the Romulus Early College, as outlined in the program materials. And it is further resolved that the Superintendent of Schools is authorized and directed to proceed with any other steps as necessary to fully implement the Romulus Early College program.
Thank you. Are there any further questions?
I just had a comment.
Ms. Funderburg?
Just in this whole, I'd say, evolution of really talking about this program, I think one of the things that, we really need to keep in mind, from the year that I started on the board, we have cut our budget, cut our budget, cut our budget. Every year there have been cuts to our budget, and we are at a point now where Dr. Daniels mentioned at our last meeting is that the fat is gone. We're talking about amputations. You want your right leg or your left leg. And I see this as being an opportunity to have some sort of redemption and salvation for our school district. And I really feel like if we don't do it, we're going to continue to have to cut things that are assets to our district, and we still won't have anything to offer our kids, offer our families, offer our communities, which means then that what? We're looking at a school district that is absolutely worthless. And yes, this is going to definitely be a big chunk of money up front, but I really feel like we are going to really get those families in that are really wanting to be committed, that are wanting to have some relief in their own households because they know that they have to educate their kids in a post-secondary experience. And so I just really, like Sandy Kraus said, this is a win-win, not only for the school district, but for our communities. And as a board member, I am willing to bite the bullet on this one and move it forward because we need this.
Hear, hear.
Could I ask though, are we still gonna have the same AP classes for the kids that are gonna go to a four-year university?
Good question. I meant to bring that up. Yes, this will not. The original plan, if you recall back in the fall, there was discussion that in order for the students to reach some of these goals, they were going to have to articulate the AP credits. What we've been able to work out that they will take the 101s, if you will, at the college level. They can still take AP classes and will be encouraged to do so based upon their aptitude and their desires. And though that will only help their situation, but this will not affect our AP program.
I guess one of my son's friends graduated from the Wayne County Community College, went on to get his bachelor's, and I know I've taken classes at both the Belleville and the Taylor Community College, and I see it as a positive.
Absolutely, and it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, our students, especially in the 12th and 13th year, will have access to the entire WC3 network, not just the Western campus. Is that a correct statement?
Absolutely. Starting in their 11th grade year, they will be Wayne County Community College students as well.
Exactly.
Yep.
So they'll have access to the full array. This, to use your phrase, this is a win-win. This is an absolute benefit.
One more
Ms.
question,
Bolt.
one
Yep.
more thing. I just want to say, as I stated, I like the program, but there are some things that needs to be changed. I'm not saying for what I think, I'm saying what I know, because I've experienced. I've been through a community college. I've been through a university. I've done transfer credits. I understand how it works. That's why I was able to grab so much stuff and go like I was. I'm saying this with my heart, and I'm telling you that when you're dealing with things like this, and there's things that are still little nicks and cricks that needs to be fixed out, you are, I don't mean this in a literal way, but keep in mind, these are these kids' lives. Keep in mind, it's nothing worse than putting your heart, time, effort, everything into something, and then you find out you don't get what you thought you were going to get, and it's too late. If for whatever reason things don't work out, you will have to bite the bullet. Understand that, because this is very serious. This is not just, this is these kids' lives. This is these kids, they put their hardcore time and effort into this. That's the only reason why I always say, take another look. Take another look. Keep looking. Make sure you've done everything you can possibly do before you sign your name on that dotted line. Because if it does not work out, if something comes up, if there's some sort of dispute, they will look back, and it will be an effect on them. So that's all I wanted to say.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Me, nay.
The motion carries 6-1. Thank you, staff, for your work in this effort.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
before you proceed, I know it'll probably be a few days before this ends up on YouTube, but there will be press releases going out starting tomorrow. There is a mandatory student and parent meeting on March 13th at 6 p.m. at Romulus High School in the auditorium for this program. Anyone wishing to participate in this program must have both a parent or guardian and the student present at that meeting, or to contact Ms. Mockridge at 532-1022.
What time again?
6 p.m. on the 13th. It's a Wednesday evening. Thank you. Dr. Daniels, it's on you.
Yes. Mrs. Peck is going to just kind of give us an update with our, we just had our second count day, so she's going to just let us know where we are right now.
So in your packet, you have a document called FTE Enrollment Trend Analysis, 2007 through current. That's the name of it, but I only pulled off the section that you were asking for tonight. It is the first time since I started tracking this in the last 5 years that we're showing a positive from fall to winter term. So what you're looking at on this document in your board packet is our certified fall counts are in the far left column. Our non-certified winter counts of 2013, and when I say non-certified, that means we're still in a window where students, we could either, we're not going to go up. I can guarantee you that. We would only go down, but we're pretty close. I think that we're pretty close. And in a month from now, I'll give you the final numbers, the certified or audited numbers. But as I had mentioned, we started the year at 2983.94 students. Right now, we're sitting at 3007.86 students, which is an increase of 23.92 students. And as I had mentioned, this is the first time in 5 years that this district did not see a loss from fall to winter count.
Cool.
So I feel like the sun has come out.
I know, right?
Doing something right.
The rainbows are.
Let's hope it stays out.
And I look forward to giving you the certified counts, and then next fall, showing you all how many kids that we've recaptured and brought back into the district. Any questions?
And we're looking forward to this being the beginning of our upward trend. And we're going to look forward to it continuing to be an upward trend. What you have as a part of your packet is just a summary. The MEP data came out, and during our next meeting, I'm going to give you an in-depth look that's going to include trends, covering all of the content areas, taking a look at some of our, we've been looking at gaps between, some of our different subgroups, so we're going to take a look at that. But what I wanted to give you, and what you have, is just a snapshot at the gains that we've made from last year's tests to this year, and a comparison to the state's gains. One of the things that we always take a look at is sometimes we lose points or percentage points, but if the state has also, that tells us one thing. If the state has made a huge gain and we have not, that tells us something different. And as you take a look at this, you'll find that the state went up some places and we went down, but then there were a couple of places where we took monumental gains, that well exceeded the gains that the state had. So again, as I said, coming up next month, I'm going to have more details. Again, looking at the trend over the years, over the last 4 years, and then also looking at how we're closing some of the achievement gaps, which is one of the things that we've been taking a look at. So that will be coming up. But does anyone have any questions right now? Okay. The next item for your consideration, Mr. President, I would like to have the board, I recommend that the board approve the nomination of Mrs. Teresa Beard to the Wayne County RESA Parent Advisory Committee. And the information is in your packet. This is a great opportunity for us to have someone representing our district who is on this committee, who gets a lot of great information. So I think this is an extremely, not only an honor for us, but something that gives us the opportunity to make an impact on a broader basis.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Funderburg, supported by Mr. Theed. Are there any questions?
Could you just kind of, just for our audience, give a bit of an explanation of what the PAC advisory is, what it
You're on.
entails?
I gave everybody today a copy of our, this is a brochure that the Wayne County PAC developed. The Wayne County PAC is a parent advisory committee made up of parents who have students with disabilities. I'm a parent of a 19-year-old son with a cognitive impairment and a 15-year-old son on the autism spectrum. So I have both of my children who have disabilities. I've been involved with the Wayne County PAC since 2002. They are set up to provide input to the Wayne County Plan of Special Education. The Wayne County Plan drives how your districts implement special education in the state of Michigan. They make sure that we follow the rules and the laws, and make sure the PAC also makes sure that, you know, that our county plan is being put in line with the federal standards as well. We also provide advocacy for parents who have students with disabilities. We do a lot of training classes for the parents on the PAC. We hold a monthly meeting the second Thursday of every month, and it is open to the public. And the first part of the meeting, we usually have an informational type presentation. We've had Eleanor White, who's the Director of Special Education for the state of Michigan. She comes once a year and speaks. We've had presentations on estate planning for students with disabilities. We've had presentations on community mental health options that are out there for parents, and any kind of other programs, even driver's ed training for students with disabilities. So it provides a lot of information to us as representatives, and then we pass this information out to our district, as well as information that I pass on a lot of the information that I get even onto the staff in our district too. I invite anybody that wants to come to our meetings. You're more than welcome to attend. Like I said, I've been involved since 2002, and I think we do really good work, so.
Thank
I
you.
don't know if anybody has any questions.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Mr. President, moving on to the Romulus Community Schools, Romulus Police Department, School Resource Officer Intergovernmental Agreement. I would like to recommend that the Board of Education enter into a School Resource Officer Intergovernmental Agreement with the City of Romulus Police Department as presented.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Is there a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Funderburg, supported by Mr. Thie. I'm going to go ahead and give an explanation while it's on the floor, and then I'll open up for questions. Ms. Grout had questions as well? Okay, I'll get you in just 1 second. I wanted to point out, board members, you received an email from me Friday evening after a board member brought to my attention that basically I confused you because when we discussed and authorized the formation of this agreement at our last meeting, a $75,000 figure was mentioned, and in the document that figure changed to $155,000. That was my error of not sending you a memo in your board packet telling you why we did it. I think the email kind of explained it, but I wanted to go to make sure while we were all sitting here. we currently, and have been for, I can't tell you how many years, we've had a community police officer at the high school that we pay $80,000, which is an 80%, we budget 80,000 or a not to exceed 80,000 figure, and that is 80% of the cost of that particular position. With this new program that the police department introduced to us at our last meeting, they would add 2 officers to that program at a not to exceed amount of 75,000. So when you combine the 2, that's where it's 155. The reason all 3 were put in the document is because if we're applying, well, not if, we are applying for a multitude of grants, and this allows for us to put all 3 positions in that grant because it's a new program. We couldn't necessarily get funding for a position we've had for infinity. So that was the thought process behind that. As far as a funding vehicle now, assuming we don't get any additional funding, Dr. Daniels has identified that we are eligible to use 31A monies for this. So this would not be a general fund expenditure. This would not affect our deficit situation. With that said, questions? Mrs. Crow, you had a question.
Yes, only because our situation is such that we need to start looking at needs versus wants. I think a policeman in the elementary schools makes a strong statement that we don't feel our schools are safe. I can see the need for someone at the middle school, but I don't believe at the elementary level the same truancy and problems exist. And so I'm wondering why we can't go with 2 officers where the middle school one would also spend some time visiting the elementary schools, just like our high school one includes the community high school. Then it's a 3-year commitment, and until we have a grant, I probably would only vote for a 1-year agreement with evaluation discussion after. So those are my problems with the agreement as it exists.
Well, actually, it's a 3-year agreement, but we can pull out anytime.
We can pull out at any time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that escape
That's
hatch is
for
in
the
there.
duration.
We can pull out with a 90-day notice.
90 days.
Just have a 90-day written notice.
Yeah.
I have some
And
questions
that was,
too.
I'm sorry, 1 second, Ms. Bowles. And that was kind of the where the 3 years came from, is that's kind of an average for grant writing purposes to show, because this isn't just state money we're looking for. It's Skillman Foundation, Kellogg Foundation, those kind of things, and they want to look for a sustainability kind of thing. But the escape hatch, if you want to call it that, is put in so if either the city or the school district ends up in a financial situation that they cannot sustain the program, we just notify the other party and it's done.
I still can see the need for 1 more officer, but I have a problem with the 3rd.
And I agree, and I can see your point, but at the elementary level, my thought process wasn't about truancy prevention at the elementary school, because I don't think we have too many second graders out skipping school. But it's from a question of resources for families. We live in a crazy world where there's abuse and things of that nature, and if they have a trusted resource that is trained in how to deal and how to get that child resources they need, if there is, physical, mental, sexual, that kind of abuse going on, that resource is there. And unfortunately, I think the incident rate, not just at our schools, I think at all elementary schools, I think would surprise all of us.
I think it's the law that the school counselors, if they suspect, they have to report it.
Well, but we don't have school counselors in the elementary.
We have social workers.
We've made those budget cuts.
And
so
I guess I look at $31A dollars. There might be other ways that we could spend that money versus for a policeman that more an educational value versus a policeman visiting the schools.
Well, I thought from the presentation, the idea of that elementary school police officer bringing up our standards of safety to the 2000s and
to this century,
with the way safety is going now in schools, of training our staff what to look for and things like that. And if I'm not mistaken, the meeting we had in January about the incidents at the middle school, we had over 54 incidents, and so I don't think we're going to be able to take that police officer out of the middle school and share him with the elementary school, because I think it's going to be busy enough.
But how many students do we have in the middle school compared to what we have in the high school? We have one person in the high school, and we have less than that in the middle school.
But according to our thing, we had 54 incidences in
I
the middle
say
school,
yes,
and hopefully with the
in
officer,
middle
that
school
will
you
go
would
down
need
drastically.
someone. But I have a problem substantiating a need in the elementary schools, and would hope that the middle school officer would find time to spend, just like the high school one goes to the community school, that the middle school one would find some time to visit the elementary schools.
Your point is well taken, absolutely. Ms. Bowles, you had some?
Yes, I got a couple questions, actually. Sherry, I believe that the last meeting you had, correct me with what I'm saying, okay? I believe that you had said something about in regards to it being an item worth $80,000 that is already within our budget. Just, in other words, there's no room for that. Is that correct?
What I said was, we already, currently this year, as we have probably the last 7 years, or 6 or so years I've been here, had 80,000 earmarked in our budget annually to cover the cost of a police officer to be in our building.
Okay.
At that meeting, it wasn't clear to me whether the additional 2 officers or 1 officer was going to cost more than what we're budgeting right now.
Okay. I got a couple more, and it's just.
If that answered, I hope that answered your question.
That's understandable.
Okay.
And then also, have you included the government reform of personal property tax in the budget?
That's not to hit us, and
Okay.
and when it does, we are being told by the governor that they will replace that from state aid. Where they're going to get that, I couldn't tell you that today, but that's
Okay.
what we're being told.
Okay, and I'm going down a list. And then in regards to the 31A grant, does anybody know like the percentage amount? Because I think
In terms of what?
the percentage amount that will be given out in regards to that.
That changes on a yearly basis.
Okay.
It depends how many districts are allowable for the grant, or eligible, I shall say. And even the amount that the state budgets for 31A, not 100% is given out to districts, because there's so many districts that are eligible for it, that
Okay.
we don't even get 100% of what we would be eligible for, if that makes sense.
Because I just found it where it states security section 31A4.
20%.
20%.
20%
is what it said.
The maximum amount you can spend 31A on for security purposes is 20%.
And it did state in there, Ms. Kraut, that there was other areas that it could be used for. And it had down here medical and counseling services, health school services. I saw school breakfast programs. So I just wanted to, let you know that information. And just wanted to find out, had anybody taken the initiative to look into metal detectors? Because I took some time to look into some of that, just to get an idea of what they cost and exactly what kind of plans are for them. And I saw they had leasing agreements for them. I saw, regards to the ones that I pulled up, they had some in regards to where they'll come out before and after the sale and help you train any staff on it. They had, like I said, flexible payment options. And I saw one of the ones that I was looking at particularly, and I was just browsing, just trying to get an idea of other things, other options that we could use. And I saw some in here in regards to $3,595. And so I got to thinking about the $155,000 that we're spending, and I said we could use some of that money to get some of those, and then we would have money left over to still look into using in other options if we needed to, in other places. So I just wanted to put that on the table, and it, I was reading up on them, and they do state that they are used particularly in the city, state, and federal organizations. So I thought that, that might be a good thing to bring to the table and just, throw it out there as just some of an option whereby, as Ms. Kraut was saying, you might want not making a big amount as such as that to keep adding to the debt that we're in. And I like the option of being able to lease it and see how it works. with our you know, with our, or with the city itself, or with the community schools, and then be able to make a judgment based upon that, rather than putting $155,000 out there per year, and adding that to the deficit.
Well, we will be conducting a safety study. That's already in the process of being done, and that's what the police, if we bring the SROs in, that'll be one of their functions. But regardless whether we do the SROs or not, we will be conducting a safety audit of our buildings. And one of those things that could be looked at is metal detectors, but I can tell you, metal detectors would be just the same thing as a camera or anything else. You have to pay somebody to staff to use it. And we're certainly not in a position where we can just put people at every entrance of our buildings with metal detectors and staff them on a full-time basis. So, you know, that, it's certainly something, to use your phrase, we can put on the table, absolutely. But that would be part of an overall comprehensive safety review. And we're going to be engaging in that, probably our next project. Ms. Grout.
Well, I would just like to say that for me, the idea of a policeman at the middle school is to prevent bullying. Just knowing that they're there would maybe make someone think twice about their behavior. And truancy, I mean, you can call the police department, I'm sure they would come out and help, but to have someone that would be right on top of it and checking into every incident when they're not there, I guess at the middle school, I really can see where there would be a definite need for more, to me, and if you're gonna get it in, you're gonna get in metal detectors. I mean, kids could have things that would set it off that wouldn't really be anything harmful. And
Well,
yet,
and
but,
Sandy Hook, you know, the buzzer didn't stop him. He broke the window and forced his way into the building.
so,
You know,
but I think the truancy and the bullying are becoming major items for adolescents. I don't think so much in the elementary school, but I think in the adolescents that.
Well, is that what the social workers do?
We don't
Don't they
have.
look into that?
No.
I would think they would.
But we have 54 incidents. We obviously need to reduce those incidents.
Was there any
so
additional
something major
questions?
doesn't
Well, I didn't
happen.
have a question, but I had a comment, and I know one of the other services that we were talking about, these officers also providing, were the services for our after-school events, like our football games, basketball games, and so having those particular officers in place and being able to schedule them differently, because now they're one more to work with, so that their shifts, we can actually work with their shifts instead of against them, was also definitely a savings factor.
And that is something
for
that
us.
the district pays on top of the 80,000 right now. That are services that we request for high attendance games and things of that nature. We're paying beyond the 80,000 because it's a service we want for our students and our community members, while they're in
Right,
our,
so
while they're in
overtime.
our.
Do
Yes.
you have a dollar amount for that?
Off the top of my head, between $3,000 and $4,000 annually.
Okay.
And the presentation that Chief Dickerson and Captain Leger did wasn't just about truancy.
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
the 20
It's a
other
whole
things
lot of
that they were going to do
wraparound
for
services,
this
yeah.
district inside those schools, you know, with the students every day, seeing the students in their home life, you know, when there's a problem on the street with this kid, the officer on the road can come to this school officer and talk with them too. And it's not just about truancy, it's about a million other things that this presence will probably do in our school for the kids and the safety.
Were there additional questions?
I just want to say the parents still have authorization to still contact the police office regardless. I mean, it's not like they can't talk to them regardless. So that area right there is not really.
It's not always the parents that need to have the conversation.
It could be also a student, but even in that aspect, that, as you stated earlier, that can be a recommendation given to out to the police department in regards to given to the parents as just a suggestion. So there's other ways to go around it. In other words, there's other ways to still handle the problem, but not necessarily have that particular police officer within our facility. So I just think that it was a good idea to just kind of throw every option out on the table once again and just see what we're working with. before moving on to just jumping into something and not really having a full vision of exactly what's going to take place and what the results are going to be from that.
Are there any further questions?
Not a question, well, I guess it would be a question. Our deadline for the actual program for the grant process, because I know that was really another part of why we are taking action tonight on this particular item, was that there were certain deadline requirements that we had to abide by in order to get the process.
Gotcha. Captain Leacher, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that part of the reason that we need to go with a commitment now isn't necessarily for the grant writing per se. Okay. It's just several months of training has to take place for these SROs, and they want to be able to put them in place for us at the beginning of the next year. Okay. And the city is absorbing the cost of the training. Okay. And they're in a hiring process kind of right now, so this plays into what they're doing so that we can get these officers in place. And to clarify, to make sure everybody understands, it's not like we're getting, no disrespect to rookie officers, but we're not getting a rookie officer in our buildings. We will get an experienced officer, but we're paying for a rookie. That's the agreement that the city has made with us, that, we're going on the low end of the hiring spectrum financially, and they're going to provide someone that's got the specialty SRO training, which I understand is about 90 days worth of training.
I believe so.
Yeah, so that's what the timeline was.
Okay.
Are there any further questions?
I do have one.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I've been kind of quiet because I'm really under the
I know,
weather.
you're not feeling well. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
But, so what would the cost impact be if we just went with the 2 officers instead of 3? What's the difference? I think that's Sandy's concern from what I can hear.
Yeah. I don't know if logic tells me that it would take it 37.5 down, but I don't know that that's something that's acceptable on the city's end because of the budget. I don't
Okay.
I don't know if it's a deal breaker or not. I don't know. Are you authorized to say whether that is or not? I don't know what the budget.
It's the board's decision as to what type of a contract we want to try to enter into with the city, and then I would take that back and we would discuss that and then move from there. I think that one of the issues that, check the mic.
Yes, please.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, John.
Can the 2 principals elaborate?
Thanks. By the way, great questions, everybody, and I appreciate the amount of time and care and effort that you all put into these decisions. I think I mentioned before that I sit on a school board as well and make these same decisions on a regular basis as well, so I understand everything that goes into this. I just want to make sure that everybody's clear on, from our perspective, as to what was being offered from the presentation. And the one thing I didn't hear was, to possibly address one of your concerns, Ms. Kraut, is the SRO at the elementary level isn't just to address truancy, but could address the bullying, which I believe goes on more at that level than we probably are aware of. But with that said, this was to implement educational programs like the DARE program, the TEAM program again, which I believe have been nationwide. Programs like that are extremely beneficial in our elementary schools because they develop those relationships with our police officers. That with being a resource that's available, as Ms. Bowles said, we are always available to be called, but those relationships can't be developed and can't be nurtured at that level. So that was part of the benefit of doing that. To address your concern with the middle school SRO possibly getting into the elementary schools, I believe that at that level, because I've done the DARE program at the elementary school level and at the middle school level, that middle school will be a full-time job for that officer. I believe to do what we need to do there, that'll be a full-time job. You are almost taking that position away from having any contact, any meaningful contact with the elementary schools. Yes, obviously, if there was a serious incident, having 2 SROs, you would have the potential availability to pull one and go address an emergency. But to develop the program that we envision, I think it would be almost impossible. And again, no disrespect, I just want you to be clear on what we believe that if you were to approve one and not the other, I think you're limiting your contact with the elementary school. So.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to put you ladies on the spot, but I did have a board member ask, what are the elementary school principals? Do you have an opinion? I mean, do you want to share anything with us?
I'd be willing to share some past experience.
Would you mind getting the mic?
You gotta use the mic, I'm sorry.
I don't want to say because I'm seasoned and veteran and have been around for quite some time, but it's true. And it did make a difference years ago when we were afforded the opportunity to have an officer. In fact, at one time we had two. We had significantly more elementary schools, but to have the officers come in and do those educational types of programs like DARE and to strengthen the relationship between our students and law enforcement, it made a difference, not just inside of the school community, but in the external community as well. And it has been a missing component. So I'm in support of having the SRO programs brought back to the elementary
Thank
schools.
you.
It's always nice having that firefighter in a school too, isn't it?
Yeah. It's nice having a firefighter.
I also like firefighters and board members in my school also. No, I agree with Ms. West that we have downsized the drug awareness program since DARE left our elementary schools, and it was very valuable at the time that we had it. And the truancy is an issue. Maybe the second grader is not responsible, but the parents are. And they didn't choose to stay home, but somebody else. So in elementary, truancy is a huge issue for us. So, and our social workers, so it's left to the principals to follow up with those calls and find out where the children are. So I see it as a added benefit to the elementary.
Thank you.
You know, I'd like to share
Go ahead.
also, if it's okay, one of the things that I see as a true, something that enhances our program is when we can, anytime we can do things where we collaboratively come together with the police department, with the fire department, schools, community, it helps build a respect that goes two ways. You get to know each other. Not only do the students have an opportunity to get a personal kind of relationship with the different officers and build a respect, but go in the other direction. Sometimes when the officers get a chance to really have an opportunity to be with our kids in their turf at the school, it builds a new respect even for them that can only, enhance what goes on in the community. It's always great when we can have something that is a district-wide initiative, especially if we can do it in such a way that it does not impact our general fund. When we can make sure that we ensure that we have those climates where we do feel safe, and things are going on, and having officers in the schools, we're not trying to send a message that it's not safe, but we've got partnerships that are happening here, and because we've got these partnerships, the bad guys, you better watch out because we're partners here. Right. And so, but the climate that is created in the school is often calmer and can be more focused also. So those are some of those other kinds of things that I see that really add to the value of having an opportunity to have a program that goes across, across the board.
And if I might say as well, I certainly haven't been around as long as Mrs. West, but I've been here for a few years also, and I recall the days when we had an elementary officer, a middle school officer, and a high school officer, and I just think that elementary officer lays the foundation of a preventative piece and builds those relationships so that you're not just jumping into middle school and saying, oh, now there's an officer, and it kind of seems somewhat punitive. I think there's a lot of value truly in the elementary officer as well.
Well, and to add on to that too, I know a few of our officers, and I could probably say, like Officer Norman, he's a Cub Scout leader also, and one of our officers. And I mean, those are guys who are ideal to be in the elementary schools as those kind of officers. I believe Officer Norman did that at one time too. But I mean, in the community, he's a Boy Scout, den dad, whatever they call him, and some other officers like Officer Jackson does a lot in the community. But some of those officers would be probably perfect, and I'm sure Captain
You're gonna
Leacher
be
has
a
a lot
Girl
of guys
Scout dad.
on that list that would probably.
You're going to be a Girl Scout dad.
Not me.
Are there any further questions?
The only thing I'm concerned about is, like, we're gonna have to be making cuts. How will the community look at us expanding in this area and making cuts in other areas?
Well, and again, it's 31A money, so it's not a general fund expenditure, but I would offer as a debate item that it may address, some of it is perception and some of it is real, the threat of safety district-wide. And I view this as a proactive measure that we're putting in place. You know, I don't want to scapegoat Sandy Hook. You know, what happened at Sandy Hook, that was a tragic incident, and I don't think anybody should exploit that. But I think it drives home the reality that bad things happen. And if we have the climate that is less conducive to bad things happening, I mean, just imagine if there was an officer in Sandy Hook. Would that have happened? We don't know. I don't want to look back and say, we had an opportunity to do something and we did nothing.
But even then, we have more than one school, so he's not gonna be, the elementary officer wouldn't necessarily be there when there was an incident.
Agreed. Any further questions? Hearing none, motion is on the floor. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Mr. Chair, can you please do a roll call? I'm not sure.
We'll do a roll call vote. Mrs. Bowles? Ms.
No.
Bowles? Ms. Crow?
No.
Ms. Funderburg?
Yes.
Ms. Buckley?
Yes.
Mrs. Beard?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Theed, yes.
Motion carries 5-2. Thank you. Thank you, Captain.
Okay, Mr. President, and to the rest of our board members, you have included in your packets updates and information items from the various schools, including the Barth Weekly Updates, the Week Elementary February newsletter, Community Highs newsletter, Hell Creek's Weekly Update, a thank you from Mrs. Beard, the Romulus High School Eagle Press, and the Wingspan February 2013.
Thank you, Dr. Daniels. Board members, there's nothing under other. Next item on the agenda is communications and expressions from the public. I have no forms up here, but I do see Mrs. Williams raising her hand. I'll let her speak, and if anybody else would like to raise your hand, I'll take care of you in just a moment. Thank you. No?
Bottom, maybe?
Come on, you should be a pro at that by now. There you go.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And administration. I would just like to, first of all, you mentioned the YouTube president. A lot of citizens have asked me why the meetings are not on regular cable.
They are as much as our capability allows. Part of it's an equipment problem that we're trying to address, and part of it, frankly, is Comcast. You know, there's problems, and when we are able to get our meetings on Comcast, more often than not, there's problems with the sound quality, and the city has the same issues. And that's why I'm so appreciative that Steve, thank you, Steve, is doing so much to get our meetings on YouTube, because people can then watch them at any time of the day or night. The sound quality is absolutely perfect. So it is a work in progress. It's not that we're not posting the meetings on cable, it's just the quality is just not there.
Well, the last time most of the time I don't have to watch the council meetings because most of the time I'm there. So, but normally when I, watch a rerun, I haven't seen any problem that the city have. And maybe if the school board is having a big problem with Comcast, have you considered AT&T? Because a lot of citizens, from what I was told, joined Comcast to see the meetings because, for whatever reason they couldn't attend.
And now they're not seeing them because they're on YouTube. They don't have internet. So it's just creating one problem after another. And another issue, and I just, would like to say this to the board, to not anything personal to Mr. Leach, I love him to death, and also the principals. We as adults, I've seen a lot of incidents, not only from a child to a child or teenager to a teenager, but some of our teachers, some of our administrators, meaning principals, have not conducted themselves in a professional manner when it comes to a child. I had a lot of complaints come to me. I've talked to our previous superintendent. And so we all need to work together to straighten it all out. I would like to make sure that if you put Romulus police officers in the elementary schools, that there are rules and regulations that they can and cannot do. They should not be allowed to take one of those babies and segregate them without contacting the parents. I like that to be written.
They will follow the Michigan state law.
I'm telling you, I know for myself, a lot of times it haven't. Nothing against Mr. Leacher, but in the past, it have not. Not only have the police department not followed it, but also the schools, the principals of the schools. So I'm just telling you what I know, not what somebody told me, something I experienced myself. So please, just make sure that you don't implement something that causes damage to them babies. Because I'm going to be watching it, all of y'all. The police department, the principals, and all the board, to make sure that they're not. So I'm just letting you know up front. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Walker? Turn it back on.
Thank you.
The information that I heard this evening concerning the college program, I think is excellent. But I would like to just say a few things because I have a couple of grandkids that went through the college program in other school districts. To carry it over to 13, what would happen with an athlete that was in that program that when his time came to graduate, like the 4-year graduation, he's marching with his class and he gets a scholarship to play someplace, to play ball someplace. And he still has to wait another year until he gets out. Does that mean that he has to come to just pay the money back that he received from?
No. What the intention, and that's kind of what Mrs. Mockridge alluded to, is it would be a case-by-case basis, because in that student's instance, first and foremost, his credits would be transferable to the best degree that we can guarantee that. And for that one class that he wasn't able to take in the grade 13, we would probably make an accommodation for a night school or a testing out or a summer school or a cyber school. There, we would do whatever was in our power to make sure the Michigan Merit Curriculum was met and this child's needs were met. Absolutely.
Another thing that I heard the Wayne County Community College say, in most instances, now one of my granddaughters went through the college program.
Mm-hmm.
She got a full scholarship, academic scholarship to Central State.
Congratulations.
Okay. Her credits from Henry Ford College, Community College, did not transfer. They did not transfer, so she had 2 years that, so I hope we make sure that if the kids are in these programs, that they're going to really, they should go in state.
I hear you. My son attended Schoolcraft, and he got his associates from Schoolcraft, but not every class articulated to Central, right here within the state. So, and that's through no fault of Schoolcraft. These colleges change. That's why I said it's a fluid thing. Some of that is out of our control, but we are absolutely going to stay on top of that to the absolute best of our ability. That's what the wraparound services that we're going to provide.
And I'd like to say, and both to you and also for the assurance to Ms. Bowles, that is one of the, that conversation came up in the planning and it came up more than once. And we are committed to making sure that we try to stay ahead of that so that our students don't have any time that they've wasted, you know, and you're getting college credit, so it's not wasted, but so that everything that they do goes toward the goals that they've set in getting into the schools. But that is one of the things that's really critical as far as the team that we're going to have following up on that.
One last question that I'd like to ask is there a reason why you carried it on through the 13th instead of trying to gear it to just say 3 years, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th? 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th.
You're right. It's about the money. Because if it was an accelerated program, it would be basically an enhanced dual enrollment. And we would not qualify for the additional funding incentives that makes us able to afford this to offer to our parents and to our families without additional costs, because we get that 5th year of state funding.
And
I would like to say this. In most of those programs, they take the brightest and the best, and we know that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not going to take somebody that's struggling in English and math and like that. So you're taking kids that you know can keep up. So.
Yeah, well, our target is basically our middle of the road kids. I mean, absolutely, we don't want them to fail. We're going to provide every avenue we can to help them succeed. And that's why it's not going to be a singular approach as to just their GPA or just their compass scores. It's going to be the whole, I think the word holistic was used. They're going to look at several factors that make that rounded child, and they'll be weighted, and there'll be a committee at the high school level made up of the professional staff at the high school that will determine student A and student B's eligibility in the program. And the first year, I'm not gonna lie, there's probably gonna be some bumps, you know, but we're going to have every resource available to that student and to that family to make sure there's everything in place to help them succeed. Because if this program fails, we fail, and that's not an option. That's a quote somewhere, failure's not an option.
Well, is somebody going to be in the mix that has already been doing that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our counseling staff will be in the mix, so to speak, and Wayne County is providing a person that's dedicated as an academic advisor to our students. Absolutely.
It's like appointment with the
Anybody
counselors.
else? Hearing none, we do have questions and concerns of board members. And after that, ladies and gentlemen, we do have need to go into an executive session for negotiations update. Given the fact that it's pushing on 8:30, we'll kind of go through board member concerns and questions. We'll start at the end, Ms. Bowles.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to the young lady in the back, Ms. Walker. I just wanted to let you know it does state in the PowerPoint, it said if for any reason at any time a student cannot continue in the program, the family agrees to reimburse RCS for any tuition expenses occurred for attempting college classes.
That's
so
right.
I just wanted to make sure you knew that was definitely here in regards to that.
But
And-
Mrs. Walker, to complete the whole story, that is when Mrs. Mockridge interjected that each case will be on a case-by-case basis.
Excuse me, can I finish my statement,
You can,
please?
but
Thank
when
you.
you're giving
Thank
somebody
you.
information,
I'm
give it all.
giving exactly what's on the PowerPoint sheet here. If you like, I can actually give you a copy of it so that you can have it. I always go by documentation, ma'am. Also, I would like to bring to the attention, in regards to the cable issue that Ms. Williams brought to the attention, I would like to find out more information to that too, because I know it's a lot of people that don't have access to the internet, and that there's a lot of senior citizens as well that don't even know how to cut a computer on. but they may come out to the city meetings and they sit in and they have been asking questions. I too have gotten some questions in regards to that. And it just happened to be that Ms. Williams brought it up before I even got around to what was on my list. But I was wondering the same thing because it's more people that has access to TV than they do the internet. So I think that might be something that definitely needs to be looked into to make sure that all of Romulus citizens can see what's going on and know what's going on in our meetings. And one more thing, and that's in regards to the board packets. Is there any way, Ms. Interim Superintendent, that we can receive, and let me know, board, how you feel about this, our packets maybe on Thursday? And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because at Lansing, I was overhearing some conversations when we went out to the classes, and they were stating that a lot of them get their information on Thursday. And when I thought about it, it made sense, especially with the situation that happened today, that if I had it on Thursday, that would give me more time to do my research. If I had any questions, to contact the interim superintendent and get information on that versus getting it on Friday. And by the time I get to it in my hand, whenever it comes in the mail, the school is closed, and now I'm trying to contact people over the weekend. So I was just wondering to the board, have you all had that same type of experience? And what do you all think about that?
You say experience, and you're talking about, we've had discussion about getting our packets early.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, as far as your experience, you're talking about when you say experience.
In regards to that,
Okay,
have you
yeah,
had
we've
any
had the
discussion?
Yeah.
And is
we've
that
had-
something that could be possible?
It's something that is a goal right now because of the fluidity of things and the huge amount of things that are happening. It's not always feasible. It was actually on point to happen, not this meeting, but the last meeting, and then we had a snow day. So it is on point, and actually, the plan is probably in the summer, once we're done with the transitional phase, the goal is that we would actually get our board packets a week before the meeting. That is the goal. When we're gonna get there, I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you that it's gonna be next week.
Right, that's
But we
understandable.
have had that conversation. I want you to know we really have. So what we're just trying to do is get the rhythm going enough so that you can have that, but we really have had that conversation, so that's not at all out of the way.
Thank you.
And I think that what they had said before, when they tried to do it earlier, what happened was they had to keep doing amended,
Right.
because
Right.
they amend the
Different
agenda
things
because they had
come
so
up.
many things that came up last minute. Like
And the board
trips
became
for
more
the kids and
comfortable
stuff
with the
and-
Friday schedule because of all the amendments that were happening.
Okay.
That's exactly what happened.
Okay.
But we still were
it's
looking to
something
Yeah,
that
'cause
we're
it
always
would-
looking at.
Yeah, it would be
Yes.
really great to do that.
Yeah.
That way we'd have more time to definitely
we
do
absolutely
research
are
on it.
we're
Or
trying to
even
work
even if
towards
it meant, that we get whatever is available. Because we understand you have a
Yes.
very, busy schedule. That would give us a chance to get a head start.
Yes.
And then, like I said, I wouldn't have been so late trying to run and
You are, but you
so-
are absolutely, we absolutely have had that conversation, so you're right on.
Thank
Anything
you.
else, Ms. Bowles?
No, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Crowe?
Nothing?
Ms. Funderburk?
Just to note, there is a flyer in your packet for Henry Ford Community College, and Project ACE is partnering with our community high school on a performance called Get in the Game. And it's a collaboration of the three entities that more or less talks about some of the processes of getting into college and what types of hurdles they may have. But they are taking an artistic approach in doing like skits. And so they're having a performance on Thursday, February 28th, from 11 to 1 p.m. on the Henry Ford Community College campus. So not only are they collaborating, but they actually get an opportunity to be on campus. And this is a really nice thing because it's with our community high school students, which we do a lot of really pressing type opportunities for our Romulus high school students, but sometimes our community high school students are kind of overlooked. And so this was a really nice opportunity for them to really get engaged in that process. So just inviting everyone out. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Buckley.
Yes, I did have one thing. I just kind of wanted to just say something about the early college program. Being a Romulus grad, as some of us are, it's so, I think I'm so excited about the program because there's so many of my relatives and my friends that can benefit from it. But what I think we're missing too, that this is some kids that have associate's degrees that wouldn't even thought about going to college. So we're missing those kids. We need to think about those that won't necessarily be transferring to a four-year college.
Yep.
These are kids that didn't see it, student loans up the kazoo. These are students that will have a two-year degree that will be able to go out into the workforce that wouldn't otherwise have been able to do that. So I think we need to make sure that we think about those kids that not necessarily will be transferring or that would even thought about going to school.
And can I just add a little bit to it, because I get really excited when you start talking about little nuggets of things that we've already kind of thought through as we're planning this process. You nailed it right on the head. So many of our students are students that thought that we're going to be targeting, that thought that I would never be a college student. So the joy that we're going to get out of seeing the light in their eyes as they get their high school and their college diploma is tremendous. But let me add another layer to that, Mrs. Buckley. Let me say, they never thought that they'd get an associate's. Maybe they never thought they'd get that bachelor degree either, but we're going to have our wraparound service in place to get them to that next level if they want it. They can still go out and they will have a valid associate's degree and it will be in applied arts or in science. But we're going to get those kids to that next level where we're also going to introduce them to the world of four-year universities. How do we get them? How do we get them scholarships for that? You know, there are so many scholarship opportunities that will still be available. They're still going to be considered first year. This is the beauty of this. They're still going to be considered first-year college students, and they're going to have an associate's degree. So when they transfer to Eastern or Central, they get all of those perks of being a first-year freshman, even though they're coming in as a junior. I mean, there's so many wins that we're seeing in this. And we are going to be very conscientious and make sure that we cross as many T's and dot as many I's as we can, because we do recognize, administration recognizes that these are children's lives that are in our hands every single day. And we don't take that lightly, this being one of them.
And another comment, I know people are really interested because, they're kind of talking about it and their ears perk up. So
Right.
it's like, what? You
can see the response.
People that were thinking of taking their kids elsewhere are like, oh, really? I say, it's kind of in the works. We haven't approved anything, but, this is kind of what we're trying to do. So I know the interest is there, and I think it'll help retain some of our kids as well as maybe even get some of our kids back. So I just wanted to say that. So excuse me, I haven't been too talkative tonight. I'm just a little bit under the weather, but that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Mr. D.
Just want to say the basketball districts, we're hosting one of them, I believe, and I think the girls played tonight, correct? They were playing at 5:30, so I believe the boys play on March 4th. So that's not.
Yeah, there was a schedule.
Yep. Just to remind the public. And to answer Ms. Walker, I believe, without the guy in the booth coming out, some of the littler cable channels, like our city channel, our school channel, I know from doing some work with Comcast, when you record a show, a lot of times they don't have people in a control booth, so the volumes are set at certain levels, and when a certain show comes on, they're not in there like a big network always has people in a control booth all the time adjusting. And plus those people, when they film shows, they have the $1 million equipment. But I think that's a problem too, because even on the city channel, if you see like the Pumpkin Festival, you have to crank your volume up to 48 because there's nobody in the control booth in Romulus adjusting that for Comcast. So that's one of the big problems, that Comcast don't have someone 24 hours in the booth. So when you submit something, they set that level to like a lot of the Comcast shows. And if you're not recorded in that level, that can be a problem. So that's why the volume stinks sometimes. On like some of the, like if you ever watch certain channels on Comcast, not just ours. So that's all from me.
Ms. Spear.
I have nothing to thank. I'm just excited about the early college program also. I'm hoping to be a participant, or at least my son being a participant.
Thank you, board members. Couple reminders. March 5th in Lansing is the Michigan Association of School Administrators, Michigan Association of School Boards Joint Legislative Conference. If you'd like to go, please let Anna know, like tomorrow, so she can get you registered. It is from 7:45, I believe, until 2:15 in the day. Additionally, if board members are interested in taking the CBA Class 261 that we're hosting here at Romulus Middle School on March 6th, Ms. Grout and myself are already signed up. If anybody else wishes to take that, Anna still needs to sign you up. So please let Anna know, preferably tonight, because this class is in danger of being rescheduled if they can't get enough registrants. So if you're interested in taking the class, please let Anna know. I wanted to give a thank you to Dr. Daniels for inviting the board. I was able to attend for a brief period the science training that was going on with our staff, the PD at Rom-El, and Dr. Greg Johnson spoke. And as I said to the staff then, I think board members actually should take the administration up on the invitations to sit in as an observer, not to critique what's going on, but just to see the types of PD that our staff are going through. They're not just getting a magic lesson plan out of the sky. They did an interesting experiment while I was there called the Marshmallow Challenge that was quite interesting to see them making structures out of spaghetti and string. But these are the kind of things that are teaching our kids. I'm losing the term, but
engineering concepts.
yeah, the engineering concepts where they're going from a prototype to a review, and it's a constant cyclical event. So it's okay for kids to make mistakes. In fact, if they're not making mistakes, it's pretty much deemed that they're not putting forth enough effort, because they have to push themselves to get into that review cycle. So if and when those invitations come, I urge you, if you have some time, if you can go. I only went for an hour. It was an all-day thing. I was only able to be there for an hour, but it was an interesting hour. Board members, because I don't want to spend a lot of time on it tonight, but there is need for us to talk about scheduling a retreat. Actually, we're going to need to probably schedule two. One of them, we need to discuss overall goals, and we need to discuss the board operating procedures that we had talked about 2 years ago, and they got backburnered. I think it's probably time that we discuss them as a board and decide what we need to go forward. So what I will do is I will talk with Dr. Daniels about some dates that may be available, and I'll send you an email saying, are you available on either of these dates, and we'll schedule. With that said, would you rather do evenings, or would you rather do a Saturday event?
How long is it going to take? How many hours?
I would hope that if we did an evening, it would max out at 3 hours. If it was a Saturday, I would think it would max out at 4.
It don't matter really. Just kind of see what's good.
Okay, let's talk about that. Just keep it in our minds that we need to do that. The second retreat would be, we need to discuss strategic planning. But I think, and we've kind of discussed this briefly over the last month, to do strategic planning until we have a permanent superintendent in place would be kind of cart before the horse. So, because whoever the new superintendent is, they need to be part of that process. Okay. With that, there is a need for us to go into executive session for negotiations update. With that, the chair will entertain a motion.
That we go into executive session for negotiations update.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Funderburg, supported by Mr. Thied. Mr. Thied, could you please do a roll call vote?
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Ms. Crowell?
Yes.
Ms. Funderburg?
Yes.
Ms. Buckley?
Yes.
Ms. Beard?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Thied, yes.
Thank you. Okay, we are back in open session. The chair will entertain a motion to go into open session.
I move that we go back into open session.
Support?
Been moved by Ms. Funderburg, supported by Mrs. Kraut. Any questions? No? Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Bowles?
Yes.
Mrs. Kraut?
Yes.
Mrs. Funderburg?
Yes.
Mrs. Buckley?
Yes.
Mrs. Beard, yes. Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes. We are now in open session. There's nothing further on the agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's,
Support.
I'm sorry, was that moved by Mrs. Funderburg?
Yes.
And supported by Mrs. Crown. Any questions?
Nope.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, meeting is adjourned at 9:59. Thank you.